This is the task to take this Photoshop composition that I created earlier in the semester and converting it into an HTML page. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the layout that I have set up here and figure out some sort of a strategy before I start. First thing, what I'm going to see here is that I've got a wrapper. I created a list of things actually for the website width, the header height, the nav width, the aside height, and I am going to choose to make this area right, this area right in here to be my aside, and then this area right in here to be my article, and then of course this bar down at the very bottom here to be my footer. So all of these things I'm going to try to put together. I'm going to try to think of a strategy. So the first thing I'm going to look at is obviously I'm going to create a wrapper that's 950 pixels wide. It's going to have a header inside that's got a height of 160 pixels. Inside the header, I'm going to have a navigation tag which will float right. Up here at the top, I'll have a secondary name, sort of a subheader. Over here we'll have links, and then of course my image that I put in here. I've got my content here. Underneath my content I've got a sort of a textured background, and that's probably going to be the hardest thing to extract because I'm going to have to extract it from this composition. Couple of notes, my title font is called Great Vibes Regular. It's a Google font. So we're going to have to get a Google font to capture that, and the one down at the last text down at the very bottom there. So let's get started. So I've got all my height, my aspect ratios. I also have my colors for the background, the full background, which is this gray color, the site background, which is sort of this teal color, the header background, which is this brown, the navigation background, which is the magenta, and the footer background, which is the darker turquoise. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to jump over to Photoshop, and I'm going to create a new HTML page, and I will, before I do anything else, I'm going to call it My Sites. I'm going to give it a title, My Sites Designs, for my title tag there. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a background color, which is going to be gray. I can take care of two things at once here. I can define in page. I'm just going to go ahead and create a style. I'm going to do it all in the page here, and I'm going to create my first style for the body. And two things I'm going to do is I'm going to copy my background color here. I'm going to be referencing that, so I'm not going to pull it over every single time, but just so you know what I'm doing, how I'm getting the color. And I'm just going to paste in that hexadecimal value. There's my gray. Sorry, I got ahead of myself. I put in the color, the text color first. Color is text color. I know that very well, but I just was getting a little too over enthusiastic. I have to go over to the background button and then paste in the background title. By the way, the background color for the text usually is what I would consider the majority of the text, which actually in this case is black. So I'm going to go ahead and choose black as my background color, which is already set to 0. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is my wrapper. That's an ID, so I'm going to type that in. I'm going to pause while I type. Okay, so I created a wrapper with the 950 pixels, margin left auto, margin right auto. Now in this particular case, I'm going to go over into my style panel, and remember in my Photoshop file that I have the rounded corners here. So I'm going to actually add that in there. I believe this is a 20 pixel radius. So I want to make sure that links to all of them. Thought that would do it automatically, but apparently I have, there we go, 20 pixels all the way around. That is added to my wrapper here. Another thing that I also forgot to mention is that my main font here is Myriad Pro. So I'm going to go ahead and add that to my body style here and add in Myriad Pro for my font family. Which means I'm going to have to go down to Manage Fonts, and I'm going to go ahead and custom font stack, and I'm going to grab Myriad Pro here, so I'll do that. The font stack that comes with Dreamweaver is not really the best efficiency, so what I would recommend is to copy and paste the style attribute that I'm going to paste right here. I'll have that on the dimensions included with this video. The reason why the right way to do Myriad Pro, if you did the font stack according to the Dreamweaver design guide here, you should have quotes around Myriad Pro because it is a third party. It works, it's a proper web font, but some web fonts need quotes around it. And in this case, this is one you want to do, and Dreamweaver doesn't provide that. Okay, so now I am ready to type in the wrapper div. Okay, and let's go ahead and type some stuff in there just to see that everything's okay. Alright, next thing I need to do is a background color. My site background color is this hexadecimal here, so again that's in my wrapper div, so I'm going to add that background color in there. Paste that in there, and as you can see that comes in. Now the next thing I need to do, now you're not going to see, by the way, you're not going to see the rounded corners until I do the live bit. And as I go live into the live, you can see the rounded corners. So don't freak out if you don't see that if you're not in live view. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is type in my header. By the way, doesn't matter which order you do it, whether you do the header div first or the header tag first and then the style, or vice versa. And by the way, if you notice, I'm kind of going back and forth between my style panel. The header background is this hexadecimal number. Again, I'm copying from my text document here, so the background color for my header is that hexadecimal, so that gives me this brown color, and the height of the header is 160 pixels. So the height is here, pixels, and then I type in 160 like that. Okay. Now, the next thing that I have to do is I have to type in an H1. Remember, this is going to be my header H1, and that is called, oops, My Site Designs. So my site. So I'm going to type that in here. Like that. And this particular one, I have to go to Google Fonts. So I will add that link to the list. So in Google Fonts, what I'm searching for is Great Vibes Regular. Sorry, you got to use Great Vibes. So how you get the font, fairly simple process. You click the button Quick Use. Now remember, I downloaded this font earlier, But in this case, what I'm doing is I'm adding this to the website. So the first thing I need to do is copy and paste the actual link to the Google font itself in the Google server. So I'm going to copy that, go into my head area and paste that. And then all I have to do is copy this font style attribute. And again, this is going to apply to header H1. So what I'm going to do is header compound style H1, and then I just paste that in there. Again, you will not see this until you go into live view, and then you will see the actual font. Now, it's not really lining up the way I want it to. In fact, a couple of things we got to take a look at here. It is a white color. It's actually a little off-white. Let me get that color there. That's this off-white. So I'm going to do font color. Oops, sorry. I always do this. It is color. Sorry, not font color. It's color. And we will paste in pound sign color. And then I also have to figure out a font size. And this one's going to be pretty big. So let me update that. Got to be a lot bigger than that, actually. Let's do 150. The heck? Okay, way too big. Let me pause here. You'll notice that this looks a little thick. If I look at the one on the website on my design and the one here, this one's a lot thicker. And the reason being is because this is an H1, so I have to turn off bold. So that is font weight, and I'm going to put in normal to turn the bold off, and see that calms it down a little bit. The last thing I need to do is I need to put some margins in there so that it will not be right up against the edge here. So let me do that. Pauses just. Okay, so you see I have a little bit of a problem. In my H1, what I've done is I put a padding top 20 pixels and a padding left 20 pixels so that I can get this more into the location that I want it to be in. And what it did is it actually added some unwanted space up here. There's no intuitive reason for this, but if you add margin top 10 pixels, that will take out that extra space. I do not know why it does that. I just noticed something else that it wasn't working here. The rounded borders here don't seem to be showing up. They should be showing up. But if you run into this situation where I put the header in that does not have a border radius, and the actual wrapper does, so what I'm going to do with the header then is I'm going to add a border radius that's under borders here. This one, I'm just going to add 20 pixels to both the top right and left here, so that I make sure that I get the radius going for both the others. Okay, inside the header, I'm going to create a nav now. In fact, I'm going to give it its own line. Inside the nav, I'm going to paste the navigation line. So I just come back to Photoshop, I grab my text tool, and I click inside my nav links, and I'm just going to copy and paste all of these into Dreamweaver here inside my nav. Now I'm going to do this in the code view. Now what you're going to find is that all these links are going to be just kind of side by side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit return to turn them into, turn off live view here, to create paragraphs. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of them and turn them into an unordered list. Now, what I do now is I go up into my link, my styles, and I'm going to go nav li